Hi, welcome to a new video dedicated to a new very original brushless FPV eraser. This is a RealAcc Horns 100 and it's not a classic quadcopter, okay? It's a 3D FPV machine. What is a 3D? You have two cameras, okay, to broadcast simultaneously the FPV linking two different 5.8 GHz frequencies. So it's not the only originality of this model, but the electronics is more common with the last brushless mini FPV eraser. So you can find, for example, an F3 omnibus flight control board with a built-in Betaflight OSD. That's great. You can find the 4-in-1 10 ampere BLE SD Shot 600 ready ESC board with a peak up to 15 ampere. For the motors we have some 1104, but spinning at 7500 kV, so pretty fast. It means that this model come only in 2S setup. Not sure you can handle really a 3S setup. For the FPV, as I said, we have two IO FPV 25 mW system broadcasting the signal simultaneously for the left and right channel. Okay, and for the receiver choices, we have four choices, two for FreeSky, D8 with an extra RSSI channel, FreeSky D16 like mine, where you can also, if you want, use the last channel to broadcast the RSSI for inputting the OSD, and you have also DSM2, DSM-X for spectrum radio, and finally a FlySky FHDS2A, okay, for FlySky radio. Let's now discover this bundle. Okay, here are all the elements you can find in the bundle, and I already pre-installed the props as well as the camera, but I will start with the accessories after to hand with the quadcopter itself. So you will find a remaining bags with four spare props, some 15mm Betaflight, okay, 2035, and I really like them because first of all you can't be wrong to install them. Now you have a letter written on the top of them, okay, and it's super easy, and they are the same than the Scopes 100, and they offer gel-free FPV videos. That's great, so I really like it and it's good. Orange color, so more or less easy to find in tall herbs. What you will be able to find some cable. So this is a USB to a mini GST connector, 1.25mm of pitch, if I'm not wrong, or 1mm. I will check that. Sounds to be more 1mm. So it's to make the USB connection, and you will have to attach the board to the left side. So left side, it means that the flight control board is not rotated of 180 degrees. It's a difference between the Scope 100 where the board was rotated. Okay, so no specific board alignment had to be done for this model. What also you will find, if you don't like this USB cable, you can find this extender ending with this mini GST 1mm pitch, okay, with a micro USB connector, and then you will need to plug your favorite USB to micro USB. A bag with a screwdriver as well, and then two Allen keys. The screwdriver is to lock the screws to lock the props on the frame, okay, and to lock also the FPV camera to the main horizontal carbon frame, okay, and also the Allen keys more to install the props, okay. You have some M2X screws with 8.5mm longs. We can find a 450 LiPo battery. It's an ATC for discharge rate ending with a GST connector. Exactly the same we can find for the Aurora 100, for example. So the weights, if you need some specific weights, exactly 31 grams, 30.8 grams to be more precise. I already installed the battery, the Velcro band, okay, to secure completely the installation of the battery. So, but if you need some exact dimension, there are 57 by 30 by 9, okay, 9. So exactly the same than the Aurora. What also we can find this instruction manual printed in color. So the first page is more dedicated for the Taranis and binding, how to bind it. So I will show in a few instants, but the bind button is a little bit hidden for this model, but it's exactly the same procedure that all the PSKI. You will have to press the bind button while powering the setup to enter to bind mode. The configuration of the switch mode, okay, and here we have more of the frequency table for the 6-band. Each video transmitter are 48 channels divided in 6 bands. Exactly the same 2 buttons. The front button of each I/O is for the PAL or NTAC. The default should be NTAC, and the rear button, if you short press on it, is to select the current frequency inside the selected band, and if you long press, you will select which column or which band to select your frequency. Important, you have the layout how to install the battery. So out of the box they are not installed, so you will have to install the R letters for the front left motor, the L letters for the front right, and to be more precise, you have the R letter for the rear right motor and an L letters for the rear left motor. Okay, so this is a basic, exactly classic quadcopter layout to install your battery. So what also you will find in the remaining, you will find some 4 small screws to lock your 3D camera, okay, 2 spare, and also the same for attaching motors, so that's great, 4 spare, as well as 1 and 2 X screws if you're losing one for your props. So let's immediately check the quadcopter. So already pre-installed the battery strap, the same than the Lizard, a little bit seat, and in order to install it, you will need first to not remove completely, but to unseat the 4 M2 X screws here, 1, 2, 3, 4, as well as this M3 here, okay, to secure, and then you will be able to insert the battery strap. Is not super easy, okay, but it's like this, so be aware to not cut by accident one of the wiring of the ESC to the motors, okay. So I strongly advise, if you can, to install some liquid electrical tape on all the electronic here. Then to completely secure the battery installation, I also advise to install the Velcro bond provided in the bundle to be sure. So standalone, okay, without battery, this machine with everything installed already weighs 76.8 grams, okay, and if I had the battery, we will reach 107.6. So for a 2S setup, it's a little bit heavy in my point of view. So the question, can this bundle can be pushed to a 3S setup, will be very important. So to completely secure this 3D setup installation, you can find in the bundle 4 small O-rings, and you have to install them, okay, to remove the jello and to be sure to secure the complete installation of the FPV camera. Notice that the right one is the one who will welcome the OSD information. So you can find the video input going to the video out going to the OSD, and then resend the signal to the camera. Okay, so it's great, and the right can be completely disconnected. You don't have, as far as I see, a specific connector to this camera. So let's check that. Now you have this kind of Y derivation of electricity. So it means that if you disconnect this cable here, I will show this one, this connector, you will unpower both camera. It would have been great if you want to fly not in 3D, just to unpower the left camera. But it's not like this. So let's check a little bit the elements. First, it looks like a kind of rhino, isn't it? Okay, and this kind of animal, and everything is carbon based. And let's check the thickness of the carbon. Sounds relatively solid. Okay, so we have for each arms we have something about 2 mm. That's great. Let's check a little bit more. 2 mm frame. So sounds really solid. Okay, a little bit less than these cups, but not so bad. 2 mm will be okay, and some really solid. For the rear arms, let's check that. We have also, I guess, 2 mm. Yes, 2 mm section. So it's great, and the vertical lateral one is also 2 meters, so really solid. Now the question, how is the carbon axis holding both camera? So probably the most fragile, and it's also seems to be, if I can measure well, also close to 2 millimeters section, so sounds solid, and I don't think it will break very easily, so that's a good news. So as I said, look that we have the front motor installed normally and the rear motor are inverted. Why? Because I guess if they were first of all mounted originally more, the props will hit the antenna. So I guess they decided to invert the motors to be sure that there is no contact with the cloverleaf right polarization antennas. We can find the GST connector on the rear and the buzzer. Okay, you have a buzzer installed here, and the PSK here, the D16 is installed on the ear. Okay, more or less protected with some piece of foam. And to access to it, and more especially to the buy button, you have to go to the right section here. It's a little bit tricky. So, and you will be able to press the buy button while powering. So, two options: either use a battery in the same time, or good news, you can power everything, even the receiver, via the USB cable provided, and I think it's much more easy to power the setup via the USB cable to your computer. So how it works? You have two FPV camera. How it's working? You will need first a compatible FPV goggle, and actually the only one compatible are the Skyzen VG02 version. So it's not a side-by-side 3D FPV system. You have two camera broadcasting, each of them on his own FPV camera channel, and the only one where I'm able to correctly display are this model of Skyzen. Okay, if you have a normal way, it won't work because this one is expecting a 3D source, but side-by-side SBS source. Okay, so don't be wrong, if you have some Fat Shark or Almway, it won't work. Only with the Skyzen you will be able to enjoy this 3D. Okay, so what is original with the machine? What is very important for 3D flying? It will work with a nominal distance, not too close but not too far. So if you have any object within 2 meters up to 10-15 meters, the 3D effect will be here, okay? But if you are flying very high, you won't feel really any 3D effect, okay? So it's more adapted to fly close to some trees in a low riding altitude, and then you will be able to enjoy fully the 3D FPV. What I can say now, we have some basic electronics, the omnibus, okay? It's flashed with Betaflight 3.1. It's more or less pre-configured, at least for the receiver and the board element. Remember that for the scopes, the board element was falsely set out of the box, and now it sounds to be okay. And now I will show how to bind it. It's classic for D16. And remember, if you want to enjoy the RSSI on USD, you will need to select the option to export the RSSI on the last channel. I want before to give you the information about the distance between the two lengths, okay, because to unpack, to give you an indication about the distance of the 3D, it's more or less about 58 millimeters, so more or less 60. So it's a good distance to enjoy the stereoscopic effect. So now let's proceed to the bind procedure. So the binding procedure, so it depends if you have a Taranis, or here I've got a Deviation TX compatible radio with the built-in CC1500. So be sure to select the D16 protocol for the Deviation TX Field Sky X, and be sure also to select one important option to display. I hope you will be able to see the RSSI channel on the last channel. Okay, so it's important if you want to export the OS in RSSI in the OSD. So now you have to be ready to press bind. Then I will use connect to the left connector the USB cable. I will use this power bank, okay, and it will be more easy than the use the GST connector to plug it. So what I will do is to first press the binding button of the FieldSky receiver. So I will use this small tweezer, press the bind button, and then use the USB if I can. So it's tricky with one hand. Okay, and then I will press bind, and after a couple of seconds I should have a flashing red LEDs if everything is okay, or if I correctly press the bind button. And if I turn off everything, I should have a solid green LEDs at the time. So I will power again one more time, and let's check that. So I didn't press correctly, so I will redo it. Sometimes, as I said previously, it's sometimes tricky to press bind, to keep press bind. Compared to the Scope 100, it's much more tricky. So let's redo the operation. I will return on my radio. Okay, go to the setup, be ready to bind. I've got a green LED solid and the red LED is also solid. Press bind, now it's flashing, I hope you will be able to see. And then I can release, okay. Can see in the hole that the red LED is flashing. I can turn off everything. Now it should be okay. Turn on the USB. Okay, and as you can see, I've got now a solid green LEDs, and the blue is the power. So I should see in the transmitter, in the telemetry, I should see some important information. The RSSI, and this one is more or less homogeneous to the internal voltage regulator of the receiver, so close to 4 volts. Okay, so it's bound, and now it's time to check the default Betaflight configuration. Okay, so let's check the default Betaflight configuration. So the Horns 100 come with Betaflight 3.1.0. So I will plug the USB. If your driver are correctly installed the CP210X and the STM driver, you should see this come available. So I will press connect, and then immediately go to the CLI and check the current version installed. So we have the version 3.1.0, and we have effectively an omnibus board. So I strongly advise to dump all your values into a text file to restore case in emerging case. Okay, so copy and go to a text folder. Okay, and paste all this value into this text file. And if you need to restore, just paste all these values command into the CLI command line and save to restore your settings. So let's check now the settings. So I need to reboot, connect. So let's check the ports. We have USB VCPs, normal turn on, UART1 MCP turn on, and the most important for either the FieldSky D8, FieldSky D16 or the Spectrum DSM2, DSM-X, the serial port is turned on for UART3, very important. Let's check the configuration. We have a Quad X, no specific board element because the USB port is on the left side. Good news, the Shock 600 is turned on by default. Okay, and we have effectively a serial receiver, and more specifically using S-Bus interface. We are monitoring the rebate, 3.3 for the minimum and 2.9 for the warning cells, like the Scope 100. The board, we have 8 kilos for the gyro frequency, 2 kilos only for the PID, can be pushed probably to 4 kilos. Okay, no specific current sensors values. And we have the OSD features turned on, and the Horn 100, so nothing really specific. Let's check the fail-safe is correctly done, and the PIDs, we can find for the PIDs the default Betaflight 3.1.0, no specific. As well for the rates, they are exactly the default one, the same for lever thread, so no specific PIDs optimization have been done. So let's check the receiver. I will turn on the radio. Okay, and as you can see, for my Deviation TX, the channel mapping is not the same than the Taranis. For the Taranis, is starting with a throttle elevator. For my Deviation TX, I need aileron elevator first. So as you can see, now it's working fine. And as I said in my binding procedure, if you have a Taranis, probably this will be the aux5 we move with the RSSI correspondingly. For my Deviation TX is aux4, so it's not the 9th channel, but it's 8. Okay, so you will need to adjust to 8 if you have a Deviation TX radio. Let's check, no deadband, but let's check now the mode. We have an arm switch with aux1, a two-way position is expected. For the flight mode selection is aux2. We have by default acro, one is an upper position. Then when the flight mode switch is in the middle, we are in the angle mode, so 6-axis stabilized, more for our beginners. And when the flight mode switch is in bottom, we have acro plus air mode turn on. Okay, so we have a buzzer, but as dedicated to the aux3 switch. Okay, so except maybe I would prefer to have maybe angle mode in the upper position of the flight mode. The flight mode seems to be correctly done. So let's check the OSD information, and as you can see, no specific OSD optimization have been done, so we have to redo everything and to localize and to position much better all the elements, maybe to remove the horizon sidebar, the artificial sidebar, and so on. Useless for FPV racing in my point of view. The capacity of the battery is not correctly done, so we have a 450 and we have probably maximum 5 minutes of flight mode, so we can display a value like this. So be aware, by default the system of the camera should be in NTSC, but I will in later, when I will install Betaflight, the last version, configure everything in PAL setup. So now let's check the BLLE configurator to check the current version install of the firmware on the 4-in-1 ESC board. Okay, so let's check the default firmware install on each ESC. So I will connect the USB. Okay, and then press connect. Then you will need to plug the battery to boot the ESC. You shouldn't hear any music, it's normal, and then press read setup, and after a couple of seconds everything should appear. So we have the same firmware than this COP 100 and FH40, the version 16.5, not the ultimate one, but not so bad. It don't really need to be upgraded to a more recent in my point of view, but you can at least turn on brake on stop values and ride setup. So we are already a recent firmware, okay, and now I will install the last Betaflight settings, and let's go. Okay, so let's do the Betaflight installation of the last version. I'll plug the quadcopter, go to the firmware folder and select the omnibus board, okay, and select the last version. And normally you should have an error when you will start to flash. So first I will load in memory the firmware, okay, and as soon as I will press flash, you should hear a buzzer ringing and hear a pass indicating there is a problem with the COM. Okay, so let's proceed. And as you can see, I got a port here with a kind of specific pass, and it's not working at all. So how to proceed? You will need first to go to your device manager, display the hidden unit here, okay, and go to the USB controller. Then on the bottom you should see this one, this STM device, the FU is active here. Then right click to change update the driver. Then if you have the Zadig software installed, or like me, I've got the Taranis Wind driver installed already on my machine. I will search to find it locally on my computer. So I will select among a list of my computer, and then I will select this STM bootloader corresponding to the Taranis Wind driver, and then I will click on next and install the driver. Okay, so now it should be okay. I will disconnect the USB, reconnect the USB, okay, and then when I will press flash, it will start to flash and probably emit some noise. You can see the DFU driver is now seen and is flashing perfectly. Great. So now we'll be able to go to connect. Okay, and then we will check that we have the current last version installed. Correct, we have the Omnibus 3.1.7. No, so now let's reconfigure everything from the original setup. So we have to reboot, connect, go to the port, turn on UART 1 MSP and the serial for UART 3. Very important, save and reboot. Okay, then go to the configuration. Keep the Quad X design, no specific board alignment this time. Select D-Shot 600, okay, we can maybe push to 5%. And then select a serial receiver, and more specifically a NES bus 1. Okay, we are monitoring of the VBAT, and the default warning was 2.9, so we can decrease these values to the original settings. We can push the PID loops up to 4 kilos with the Omnibus, no problem. Now we can disable the black box, disable the SD card, and keep the OSD turned on. We can now display eventually 100, and save and reboot. Okay, so we can reconnect, and now go to the failsafe. Is drop, correctly done, and now we have the default Betaflight 3.1.7 values, so we can probably decrease a little bit these values to something about 25 and here 28, in order to decrease a little bit the temperature on the our motors. It's very linked with the D values. I will improve the rates, okay, for the yaw. Okay, push something about 800 degrees, something like this. And for my yaw command, more something linear, so I apply usually these values, okay, 34, to have more linear response. I will decrease these trains to 30, okay, and save. Now let's check the receiver. Let's turn on the receiver. We have the Aeron selected by default. I will apply a deadband of 4, as well here of 4. I have got already all my channel correctly centered on 1500, no specific trim adjustment must be done on the radio. And I will select the X8, okay, the 8th channel corresponding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with a moving with RSSI. I will save. Now, as soon as I will assign the right channel for the RSSI, I should have the RSSI on the OSD information. Let's now perform the flight mode selection. So personally, I will select more angle with the upper position of my 3-way flight switch, horizon in the middle, and I will select acro and in air mode for the acro like this. Okay, so I've got 6-axis stabilized, horizon, and acro here with air mode plus anti-gravity for the aux 1. I will assign the buffer for aux 2. Okay, and something like this. I will save. So The buzzer is pretty weak, so I will check if I don't have any problem with the setting with the soldering job. Strange, but it should work a little bit louder. Let's check now the OSD, and I will immediately set to pale and in matrix. I will configure to 450 the capacity of the battery and 5 minutes maximum. I will remove the logo for my OSD layout design, remove the horizon and the artificial, display RSSI, display the crosshair, remove the on time, okay, and now I will be able to position everything as I want, something like this, something like these two, something like this too. Okay, with the crosshair, and I want also to the throttle values, so I will maybe shift a bit the information here as well and position the throttle like this. Okay, so now I can save, and I've got a working design. So now it's time to configure everything, especially your SkyZone. So I will broadcast the two FPV signal in the band A. So I will select, for example, for the left the E1 and for the right camera the E4. Okay, and I have to configure and go activate the 3D mode in your SkyZone and select 1 and 4. And thanks to the down and up button, the down is selecting the left channel and the right and the up button the right channel of your stereo 3D setup. Let's now test in flight of this new RealAcc 100 model. Okay, so first demo fly of the RealAcc Horns 100. Okay, and I will fly with my SkyZone 3D FPV. So this one, the VG02 Plus, and you have first to turn on the 3D mode. Okay, so you have to go to the menu by a long press track, and after to turn on the 3D on the second panel, and I set the two frequencies. The left one will be E1 and the right one will be E4. If you're recording your 3D flight with your DVR, only one channel of course will be recording, and it will be the left one, so without the OSD. So if you want to record the OSD information and words, install for example this one E4 and this one E1, okay, and you will be able to record the left channel. So I will also record with my armware goggles, the right channel, so center on E4. Okay, I will start in small loss condition to show you how strong are the punch with the 2S setup for this 117 gram machine, so a little bit heavy. Okay, don't expect a super agile and sporty machine, at least in 2S. And then I will push more in 3D, so it will be hard to render 3D with my armware goggles, so I will try to explain why I'm feeling, and I will try to turn around the trees around where the 3D effect will be more present. Let's go. Okay, so we power the machine through the GST connector, and no problem for the buzzer as soon as you're powering the system with the real battery. And then turn on my radio. I will start in loss condition and in the basic 6-axis stabilize, and checking that 3D is here. I will in case record on the armway, okay, to have you a feedback, so only the right channel, so with the OSD recording, okay. Then I will now attempt to take off. So as you can see, it's not a super sporty machine, close to 120 gram more than the Aurora 100, for example. So let's see a pump. No, it's not a monster of power, but it's stable with Betaflight, no problem. So Okay, so now I will land and try more in FPV, and I will try to give some feeling. There is some drift actually, yes, drift a lot, so it could be a problem. Yes, at least in 6-axis stabilized this machine drifts a lot, huh? So I will need to reboot something. I hope in acro not so much drift. I will record and install now my 3D goggles. I will press recording on my goggles. Yes, recording. At least we will have a 2D feedback. Tune the IPD distance, and I guess now we have a 3D effect. That's great. I will arm and let's see that. So the 3D effect is here. There are some jellos in the videos. Oh yes, it's impressive. Wow, the trees are amazing. Wow! Oh my God! I can touch it. And the first trees on the foreground versus the background, it can be clearly seen. It's just great. Wow, the 3D effect is, oh my God, so incredible. So as I say, it's more dedicated to fly around trees. It's not a monster of power machine, be aware, but okay, let's see in acro. Wow! Oh, it's great. Oh my God. Typical machine to fly around trees like this. I would like to see this machine in 3S setup, to be honest. Can be fast, and the 3D brings really something very interesting. There's some wind today, so wow, especially here in this section, it's just incredible. Wow, I like. The branch. Okay, I've got the battery warning and one video transmitter cut, but it should be around, not so far. So I will stop recording here. Okay, I think I've got a really low battery, yes, and it's time to change the battery. Okay, new battery, so I will plug the JST connector. The flight duration is not so important, and I will record on my goggles. Recording, okay, and then install the skies on 3D, and let's continue. Okay, I will take off in okay, acro now. So there are some jellos, as I said. Yeah, the 3D effect is just great. Especially close to the branch and so on. So this is why I am focusing on this part.
Wow, you have the feeling that the branch will jump on your face. And the flower is great. Wow, my God. In proximity fly is just really impressive. He's not a master of power, as I say, and the flight time about 3 minutes, something like this. Wow. I will try to go here. Oh. More with surrounding branch. Wow. Oh. The seagulls are so loud that I couldn't hear the bother. It's amazing. Real summer. Hello. Wow, me in 3D. They fly great. Okay, I will start to have a low battery, I guess. What's a pity, there are some yellows, but the flower looks like really in 3D. Wow. Okay, I've got... Okay, the voltage alarm, especially the minimum cell, is set to low and should be increased if you don't want to damage your battery. So I will stop recording here. Okay, and to conclude. Very original model, I have to say. First micro brushless 3D FPV, and it's working very well via the Skyzen, no problem at all, and the 3D effect is very impressive, immersive. As soon as the object, trees, flowers, branch is between 1 meter up to 5-6 meter, you have already an immersive 3D effect. So it's working well, and the range is really impressive. So what I regret with this machine is the lack of power, because 117 grams is a lot for 2S setup. It's solid. I'm not afraid to break anything. Maybe the props, okay, on the rear side, so be aware of that. But this machine should be turned into a 3S setup to really enjoy an amazing and fast machine. The flight duration is obviously impacted by this lack of power. You can expect something about 3 minutes and a half, okay, of flight time maximum, with the 450 milliamps power 2S LiPo. Even the discharge rate is 80 C. So very original, and should be modded a little bit to increase the performances. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please thumb it, and see you next time. Bye bye.